doggy style actually felt pleasurable. I
Wow.
went from don't go there to like don't stop, you know? And so the yoni egg also helps with that because you are reconnecting to that part of you in a safe way, in a way that you can control through the yoni egg practice that I teach. And again, it makes that muscle healthier, and you're gonna start to awaken the sensations there. And with the awakening of the sensation, you're gonna start to feel more safe and pleasurable. Like, I was so surprised when after just a few sessions of my yoni egg practice, doggy style actually felt pleasurable. I
Wow.
went from don't go there to like don't stop, you know? So
Hi, everyone. I am Julie Edmonds, your host of Channeled, tapping into the wisdom of your soul.
Hello and welcome to Channeled. In today's episode, we're exploring a topic that's sacred, it's powerful, and it's often misunderstood. Sexual energy as a gateway to healing, creation, and alignment. I am joined by Anna Dornier. She's a sacred sexuality guide, and she's also the founder of By Design. She helps women lead and grow their lives from pleasure instead of pressure. Through her work, Anna teaches women to transmute shame into power, reconnect to their body's wisdom, and create from energetic alignment. So, together, we'll dive into how awakening your sexual energy can ignite creativity, deepen self trust, and activate your divine design. Hi, Anna. How are you?
hey, Julie, great. How are you?
Good, good. I'm so glad to have you today.
I am excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. So, Anna, let's start off with, like, for those who don't know what sacred sexuality is, do you want to explain that? And then we'll kind of get into how you got into this and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah. Sacred sexuality really is that woman's energy and where her source of power is. And ultimately, what we dive in when I work with women is how to tap into that sexual energy and use it as a way to create from and heal from and manifest from, instead of it's just like something that like we tend to ignore.
Wow, that's fascinating. So you're saying that your sexual is creativity, and it's you can manifest through that versus just having as something in the bedroom and exploring with your partner.
Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, we give birth through our womb, right? As women, especially. And so that same energy that creates babies is also what creates every aspect of our lives.
That's so fascinating because I've often thought about that. Like, we birthing a child is a miracle. And it
Yes.
comes from, obviously two partners, becoming joining together. But it is a creation, it's a miracle. And through that, we're creating, and that's also in the root chakra. Can you talk a little bit about the chakras and how that's affected in this practice?
Yeah, yeah. So in the Western world, we've been kind of taught to like not have much movement in the root chakra, you know? And so what this work does is that since our womb is in our root chakra, that's literally the source of our creative sexual energy. And so when we heal that part of us and our connection to that part of us, then we are able to now free up that sexual energy, and we can recirculate it through our bodies. We can use it to use for our projects and all that. And so, but it starts in the root chakra, in the womb. And so when we're able to strengthen that connection and also strengthen the physical part of it, which is our pelvic floor, Think about that. That's our core, right? And so all of that together manifests in a better way, in a way that we want to, instead of just like a side effect.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned healing first. So if we can heal that, then we can manifest through that creativity, right? Like birthing
Yeah.
a child is just, that's just like a miracle in and of itself. So tell me about healing. Like, I'm sure there's a million modalities, but in this particular case, is there specific healings that you recommend, or how do you do it when you help women?
Yeah. So if we're talking about physical healing first, right? So some women, most women actually, will experience problems here, either if it's in the bedroom, like certain sexual positions might be painful, or they might experience some dryness, depending on like what their hormones are doing, either post pregnancy, post childbirth, or menopausal, right? Or it's they're just not feeling, they don't have the libido that they used to, right? So all of those are very physical issues that will have some spiritual consequences, right? And so those issues, if we're able to heal it, so for example, if we're just focusing on the dryness aspect of it, right, most of the time that dryness is reflected uh creatively as well, right? So if you're not feeling anything down there, if you're feeling dry down there, that means that your passion, your libido is probably not as high anymore, as like when you were in your 20s, for example, right? And so one of the ways that we help with that is through the yoni egg practice. And the yoni egg is just this really tangible way for your vaginal muscles to get feedback from. And it's kind of like bicep curls for your vaginal muscles. So if you think that dryness is kind of a sign that your muscles are atrophying because you haven't been focusing on it, you have been disconnected from it, like physically from your mind, right? So then the dryness is a symptom of that disconnection. And so when we start using the yoni egg properly, we're able to now awaken the nerves in the muscles and strengthen them. And so if you think of a healthy muscle, and this kind of comes from my background as a fitness coach. If you think of a healthy muscle, it's alive, it's growing, it's lubricated, right? And so that's one of the ways that we heal that part. And when you heal the actual physical muscles in the vaginal canal, it actually translates to more lubrication, increased libido, and so on and so forth.
Wow. Okay. So now we're talking physical, right? So that was the physical healing. And we're talking about libido, from a physical aspect. But I'm sure women in their 20s, 30s, and all ages, it's not always just the physical part. I mean, there's a lot of emotional healing that really causes
Yes.
physical pain. Can we talk about that? Because once we release the emotional pain, everything else opens up this vessel to create. So,
Yes, yes, totally. That's such a great question. So we do have lots of trauma there. Either it's our actual trauma or trauma from like our lineage, our, history in our ancestral. And so there is a lot of healing that happens when we reconnect to that part of us. And so for example, if we're talking about pain, let's say during certain positions like doggy style, for example, which tends to be painful for a lot of women. I know it was for me at the beginning before I started doing this work. That could be a sign that there was trauma there, either physically where like you're just bracing and you're not feeling safe being touched there, or being met there, right? And so the yoni egg also helps with that, because you are reconnecting to that part of you in a safe way, in a way that you can control through the yoni egg practice that I teach. And again, it makes that muscle healthier, and you're gonna start to awaken the sensations there. And with the awakening of the sensation, you're gonna start to feel more safe and pleasurable. Like, I was so surprised when after just a few sessions of my yoni egg practice, doggy style actually felt pleasurable. I
Wow.
went from don't go there to like don't stop, you know? So
So we're waking
so
you up at the
that
program. Anna, first of all, stop. Can you talk about what, for our listeners that don't know what a yoni egg is or that practice? Can we
yeah.
explain what that is?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So the yoni egg, yoni is basically Sanskrit for source or origin. And basically it is the vagina, in western terms. So the egg ultimate is from a lineage tradition called the Taoist tradition, which is like 5,000 years ago. These are ancient practices that they've cultivated, their women have cultivated, and men as well, they have practices for men. And it's originally called a jade egg because the original stone that they use is jade, but now you can get it in all sorts of crystals. And so, what the egg does, it provides feedback for your vaginal muscles to resist against. So, instead of just doing Kegels, where like you're just squeezing air, you're actually providing your muscle something to resist against so it can grow and
So it's a
have that
crystal,
feedback.
and it's in the shape of a like an egg, like a
Yeah,
regular chicken egg, right?
yeah,
And a crystal or jade or what? There's different sizes, shapes, weights. Like what?
yeah. So the one that I recommend, I feel like most women only need one size, which is the biggest size. If they're looking online, there's usually either the biggest size or they come in a set of three. And really, I haven't used the other two smaller sizes. The only size you need is the biggest one. And it comes in rose quartz, obsidian. Like, you can get many different types of crystals depending on what you um, are looking to, I guess, the goal or what you get out of the practice. So, for example, right now, the egg that I'm using is a tiger's eye because it helps with subconscious reprogramming.
Hmm.
And so I chose that intentionally in my practice so I can work with the energy of the crystal and harness that energy also in my practice. And then, yeah, I teach them other stuff in our programs, but that's basically the gist of it.
Wow. So you obviously you have a program that's coming up. You have it online, and we'll put it all in the show notes. But can you give us some snippets of what you teach in your up and coming class?
Yeah, sure. So the program is called Overflow by Design, a sacred sexuality journey. And really, the core premise is that when we get in touch with this sexual energy and create from it, that we create from overflow. And some of the things that we teach is part of it. The foundation of it is the yoni egg practice or practices, because there's multiple. And there's also like energy cultivation practices. I teach them about how to harness sexual energy so that they can store it to use for later. And
Oh, wait,
basically,
let's talk about that for a minute because I know last I saw you at a girls' weekend, we did something outside where we did some kind of creativity movement with just breath work, and
yeah,
we were storing it for creative energy for anything, right?
yeah,
Passion projects, work. Maybe you want to redecorate your house, write a book, or dance, anything,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, that's what the practice that we teach in there. So I teach the foundation of it, and then I teach you actually how to do it and when to do it, because there's certain times that you want to do it so you can harness the most potent energy depending on your cycle, if you're still cycling. If not, there's practices for that as well. Along with like different sexual positions that actually heal organs. If you think for reflexology, we can stimulate certain parts of our body so that we can heal other parts of our body, right? So we teach different sexual positions that help with specific ways, like specific organs that you want to heal, specific hormones that you want to have more of. So it also helps with balancing our hormones as well. That's why this practice is really helpful for at any age. I feel like it needs to be in sex ed,
Well, I
in
agree.
high
I
school.
agree because there's one thing we talk about, like, union to to create life,
Yeah,
but the other part is just there's this feeling that it's like you can do all kinds of things through your practice, and it's not just
yeah,
about just a pleasurable one moment type of thing. The gift that keeps
yeah.
on giving, right?
Yes, it is. I'm glad you mentioned that because really, when I did this work, and I know we haven't talked about my story yet, but when I started doing this work, my background is in owning a gym, and so I'm very much like do everything, do it all the time, and just like be productive, right? And at some point you're gonna hit burnout, and because you just can't do everything like all the time, right? You have to have some rest. And so what this practice did for me, because I got in touch with that feminine flow instead of just the masculine do, is that I was able to really tune in to what does my body need right now and what feels good to do right now, right? Because now I'm in touch into what feels good in my body. And so now I'm able to now see, like, okay, this task or this project or this partnership, in terms of business, does it feel good based on like what my body is telling me? So it really just amplified that feeling of pleasure in my body to a point where I just now build in rhythm instead of just on a schedule. It's like you have to like follow this strict schedule.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and it's interesting that you say schedule because so many couples were just so busy. We're so, kids, work, this, that, the other thing. We've scheduled time over here and then it has to be done. And then let's hurry up and get it over with because it's a chore, and it's like we're wanting to move away from that to where you can actually enjoy it, enjoy your life, and enjoy all the benefits from it too, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're tapping into that, which I love. Let's talk about how was there a moment that awakened you into this process? It sounded like you were like masculine go, and then you turned into your feminine flow. But was there something that happened that had you tap into this and awaken this part of you?
Yeah. So I mean, I was very like I I would say like horny, I guess, back in college. And 2 kids later, I had 2 big kids, 9 and 10 pounds each. And I had them naturally, vaginally. And after that second child, it just wasn't the same. It's like I didn't have the libido that I used to. It just felt dry. I just was uninterested, with anything that has to do with the bedroom. And I know how important this is, obviously, to my husband. He's working hard as well. Like in the meantime, I'm just like, go, 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 go. And like everything's going well except the bedroom, basically, right? And so I didn't want that to be my life. Like where was that girl in college now kind of thing, right? And so that's what really helped me find this work and take it seriously because I'm like, I know that it doesn't have to be this way. And I'm I guess my core message throughout my life is that like age is really just a number. Like you
Yeah.
can feel young inside your body and still have amazing sex all the way to like when you get older, right? And so that was the point that I realized I needed to do something about it. And the fact that just after a few sessions of my yoni egg practice that I started feeling a huge difference and that I didn't have to resort to hormones or anything like that to get there, I did it naturally, was just so powerful for me. And then I was working towards, along with my husband, this is a co-creation, right? He had to also do his thing. Along the way, my goal was to experience this, what they call the holy grail of orgasms, which is the cervical orgasm. Up at this point, I was 39 and I haven't experienced that. I've only really experienced clitoral orgasms, which is very sad if you really think about it. Because after I experienced cervical orgasm, it was this, I would describe it as a spiritual experience.
Wow.
It's like it was like that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, if you've seen that movie,
Yeah.
it's like I felt so connected to everything. And it's like, am I in heaven? That's kind of like how it felt. And then after that release, I cried for like 15 minutes. And
Oh
my
my.
husband knew what was going on because that was kind of to be expected after such a big release. And that was kind of like a signature part of that kind of orgasm as well. So we knew what was going on. I just didn't realize that it was actually going to happen.
Well, it's a good
And so
thing your husband knew because you're crying after sex. Like,
yeah, it's like, did I do something wrong? So like he knew, and so just he was just there. He just supported me. He just hugged me because he knew that that's what was going on. And that was like, talk about a life-changing experience that I'm like, more women need to experience this. And I'm like, I got so mad that it took 39 years to experience it, you
oh, but it's
know? And
okay.
yeah. So I'm a rebel. So it's like more women need to know about this, and we need to all like live this way of life. Living any other way is really not living to your potential.
Well, let's talk about that. So, in cervical orgasm, it wasn't just about the pleasure. It's about almost like the spiritual experience where you were healing parts of your body, letting go of certain things, and then opening up for this magical next step.
Yeah.
So, tell me more about that.
Yeah. So the cervix is where we give birth. Like it's literally the gateway, right, where the baby comes out. And so, yeah, through childbirth, through any trauma, it can get very tight and it can get very painful. And so to get to that point where you can experience that kind of orgasm requires a lot of healing and reconnection and forgiveness, compassion, right? So in doing the yoni egg practices, you're able to ultimately touch parts of yourself literally and physically and emotionally that you haven't touched in a long time. And so to be able to, I call it surrender, right? In order to surrender to that kind, to achieve that kind of orgasm, takes a lot of like shadow work, inner work, right? Through the yoni egg practice and surrender, because what I found, at least for myself, that the pain, let's say during doggy style, is caused by that tightness, that armoring that I've created around the cervix, right?
So,
Is
like,
that
it's
it's not
almost like a defense mechanism, you know?
exactly, yeah. So it felt like I've been holding it, that tightness for years, you know? And so to get to that point where you feel safe and you feel pleasure when you have that kind of orgasm means that you've done a lot of work and healing up to that point, and that you're able to surrender enough and be in your feminine, right? To just receive, to be able to really experience that. And that means that you've healed all of whatever it is that, that you healed from there.
Yeah. So, the healing is so important because, through my hypnotherapy work, it's emotional, it's subconscious work, it's, closing your eyes and getting into those like theta waves and that sort of thing. But you're doing this through physical, like yoni work, which I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a breath practice that comes in there. And, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Taoist, the one I mentioned, and Taoist just means the way, and it's the natural way. It's basically going with the way of nature. And so the Taoist has this, basically the masters have gone through like all the meridians in the body, and they studied sexual energy a lot. So life force and which is chi, and then G, which is sexual energy, which you get from the stimulation of pleasure, basically through your what I call pleasure switches, uh, from your clitoris to your G spot, through your breasts, through like your throat, like all of that, right? And so we store light force in our perineum, which is that area between our vagina and our anus. And so that's ultimately kind of like our generator. And so if we're able to strengthen the pelvic floor, we're ultimately strengthening that connection and that energy source. And so what we do is we circulate those that one, we show you how to, I say we because Marielle and I are co-teaching it this time. And I know she's been in your podcast. Um, so what we do is one, we make sure that that force, that source is strong and that you're not leaking any energy there. And so by strengthening the pelvic floor, you're actually keeping the energy from leaking out. And once we know that's strong, we teach you to recirculate that energy through a, a circuit called the microcosmic orbit. And basically, there's points in our body from the back of our spine all the way to the crown, back to our perineum. It circulates. This is where sexual energy circulates. And so as
So if
we
you're listening right now and you're not visually seeing this, she's talking about a circle from the, like, my lower back, my root chakra, all the way up my spine to my crown and then back through down my body. And then
Yeah,
like one long circular motion.
correct. Yeah. Yeah, so it's that circuit that we teach you to be more aware of, and that's where the sexual energy, one, where it flows, and then, at some point we teach you how to store it in your sacral chakra, because that's a safe place where we can create anything from, right? And so you can tap into that energy anytime. So that's one of the breathing practices that we teach in there.
Wow, that's so fascinating. So we're talking about moving energy and energy leaks. What would be a symptom if someone's just listening and like, do I have energy leaks? Like, or, we told me about, positions that might be painful. That's an example of one, but how would you know if you have an energy leak? Is there a symptom, physical symptom that you might have?
Yeah, energy leaks could be like you just feel tired all the time, like depleted, you know, and some physical ones that like some women who have problems with stuck energy could be like cysts, ovarian cysts in their PMS, like actual physical ones because they manifest, right, as physical actual conditions. So those are some examples. Basically, any kind of disease that has to do with the reproductive system is a symptom of stuck energy or
Wow,
and energy that's either leaking or not circulating well enough.
interesting. And so what about if someone gets continual like UTIs or bladder infections,
Yeah.
urinary tract
Yeah.
infections?
Yep. Yeah, because what happens when we're able to tap into that sexual energy and we're able to circulate it across throughout that orbit that I was talking about is that the energy naturally knows where to go, where you're depleted and where you're not. And so it will naturally nourish all those areas where we need it. And that's why it balances our hormones ultimately, right? Because the energy is fueling, it's basically the energy behind the hormones,
Yeah,
right?
wow.
And so we're giving the hormones the building blocks, the fuel so that it can create more of itself and then balance it out with the ones that are already good. If we're seeing it from a scientific standpoint, when we experience pleasure, we experience hormones like oxytocin, which is the love hormone, serotonin, adrenaline, which are all good, like, feel good hormones, right? So the signature of pleasure is ultimately stimulating those hormones to be in circulation. That's why you're feeling this kind of like more groundedness and just like more in flow and in your body instead of wanting to step out of it into your to-do list and your this and that and the problems of yesterday kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So it's literally like a holistic way to heal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, and then we're not talking, when you say trauma and healing from trauma, it's not just sexual trauma. This could
Yeah.
be any type of trauma. And what I've learned again in hypnotherapy is that everyone has trauma.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how we respond to it, the beliefs that we formed about ourselves
Yeah.
during periods of whatever. I mean, it could be something as simple as, your brother's picking on you, or parents divorcing, or physical abuse or actual sexual abuse. I mean, we have, but what, it doesn't matter. It's a matter of,
Yeah.
they're all have gravity, right?
Yeah.
So in this conversation, it's not just about sexual trauma.
Totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because trauma can manifest however, like you said, however you respond to it, right? And so, yeah, it's not just sexual trauma. It could be however you perceive that.
So if we're talking about our sacral roots and our roots of creativity, these if those are blocked, and maybe you find yourself blocked at work, or you're just stuck in your job, or you're stuck in a relationship, or you're just bored with life, and the same thing keeps showing up, and you're trying to do, somebody else is doing something and they're getting all these results and you're doing the same thing, but you're not getting the results. This is a prime example of, you're stuck, you have some trauma in your body that needs to be healed in all different parts.
Yeah.
So I love your practice because it's a lot of physical. You do, and I know we did some movements outside. Can you talk about a little, maybe the somatic, parts of it?
Yeah. So, I think we did the orgasmic breathing, didn't we? Is that what you're referring to? We did a lot
Yeah.
that weekend. Well, let's just say orgasmic breathing. So the way that breath work is designed, or that breath sequence is designed, is that it literally, you're taking sexual energy and flowing it and connecting it through the different chakras as you, I'm like doing this. If you're watching, you're seeing me, but if you're just listening, you're not seeing me. But basically, you're going from your root to your sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, crown, and you're connecting all of those. And what that does, one, it's recirculates sexual energy, and two, it kind of mimics the breathing pattern that you would have if you're like having intercourse, for example, and just surrendering, right? Because sometimes I forgot the question, but this
No, it's okay.
sometimes we tend to brace. That's the other thing that we do in the bedroom. At least I did it, right? And so part of the thing that the practice that I teach is to breathe through, the act, and so that you can be present and you can surrender. And so breath is a huge part of that. And that what kind of also stimulates the vagus nerve. And probably in your practice, you probably talked about the vagus nerve or are familiar with the vagus nerve, which is basically these nerve lines that run alongside our spine, and they stimulate all of our organs, including our reproductive organs. And so when we experience pleasure, and then we also combine that with the breathing, or when you experience cervical orgasm, this vagus nerve is stimulated, and it becomes active, and that's what causes this interconnected feeling because of the vagus nerve. And so ultimately, a lot of the practices that I teach help stimulate the vagus nerve at a higher level so that you can feel that calm and relaxation at any time. You don't have to be doing a practice to feel it. You just, that's kind of like your new baseline,
Yeah, I
you
feel like
know?
you're training your brain to just be able to like turn that light on and snap and be there because
Exactly.
stimulating that vagus nerve should be a part of you and your life. And I think we get so busy that we cut all that off in some parts, and so that vagus nerve just resets your nervous system instead of just living in that, sympathetic
Fight or
nervous system
flight.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because um when there's doctors that actually will stimulate it synthetically, right? But there's also the moral messages that we get growing up, where it's like, don't touch yourself there, don't self-pleasure, it's bad, it's a sin, right? So there's those messages that we also have to grow up with, and it's like, wait, this feels wrong because like my religion tells me not to do this. I grew up Catholic, so you probably
Yeah,
know
no,
what I mean.
no, belief systems are huge, and they're always
Yeah.
someone else's voice, someone else's thoughts, someone else's beliefs that are
Yeah.
imposed on you, and then you take them as truth.
Yeah, and so we don't explore our bodies because of those messages because we feel like we're doing something wrong, right? Where it's the very key that we need to actually pay attention to and start to reconnect to get us to that place of that flow between the masculine and the feminine. Because it's not one or the other. It has to be a marriage between both, right?
Well, it's like that, like get in the flow, but take the inspired action, or what is your motto?
Yeah, stay in flow but get it done.
Stay in flow, but get it done.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's go back to the cervix. So, originally in a previous conversation, you were telling us that the cervix is connected to our throat chakra. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if one of the two are closed in your throat chakra, you're not really speaking your truth.
Yes. Yeah, totally. So in reflexology, there's correspondences. So in the cervix is literally connected to our throat chakra. If you think about it, we give birth to our creations through words, and
Wow.
then we give birth to our children through our cervix. So do you see the connection there as far as
Oh,
like how we create in the physical through
yes.
words and through babies, right? And so energetically, they're the same thing. They're one and the same. We have the saying in Hermetics or Kabbalah where as above, so below. It's literally what that is, like what how they mirror each other's function. And so that's one of the healing that women can get when we work with our womb, especially specifically the cervix, is you can also heal your boundaries. Like you have more distinction between what you like, what you don't like, what you're going to allow in your life, what you're not going to allow in your life, and really have like strong boundaries because you're so in tune with what feels good to you.
Wow.
And it's open now because you've healed the cervix. There's also specific things that we do with our throat that specifically make the throat experience pleasure, more pleasure, which helps it open. So anything that pleasure ultimately makes your body feel safe, right? And so if you're able to experience pleasure in your throat, it's going to naturally open up and you're going to naturally just speak your truth instead of whatever your mom used to say, your dad used to say, and like other people's truth.
I love this conversation. So, okay, so throat chakra, cervix. What about there's so many women today, especially today now. I mean, statistics are out there that they just either can't get pregnant or can't stay pregnant. So either
Hmm.
multiple miscarriages or just so many attempts of even just trying to get pregnant. And they're on IVF or IVF. Sorry, tell me. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So Actually, the breathing that we did, that I was describing earlier, it actually helps with fertility as well. I'm not a medical doctor, obviously, so a medical disclaimer there. But in the Taoist culture, they have used that breathing practice to help with fertility because again, it everything starts as energy, right? And so if we're able to cultivate and recirculate that energy and focus that intention to becoming more fertile, it's ultimately that's what you focus on grows, right? And so it has been used for that. And that could be another symptom of either stuck energy or leaking energy infertility because some way, somehow, your body is blocking you to create a human being, you know? And so it's always going to have a source from energy. And so if you fix the source, you're going to be able to fix the outcome.
Wow. Wow, so powerful. And so, this energy, this sexual energy is just incredibly powerful. And your
Yes.
work is all about teaching and almost training at stopping the leaking energy, healing from the trauma, and being able to like utilize and not just like have this explosive orgasm, but to actually store energy for later for creation.
Yeah. Yeah,
Fascinating.
because when we're not using, we have our periods if you're still in your productive years and you're still having a menstrual cycle. Typically, basically, how the Taoists view a menstrual cycle is wasted energy, right? And
Wait, wait,
so
hold
the
on. Say that again.
a menstrual cycle is wasted energy. It's like all of the power of your ovaries that what could have been a human being, right, is now wasted in your blood. And so you leak it out. And so the breathing practice that I was talking about earlier ultimately helps you one harness. That's why the timing of when you do the practice is important. When you it helps you harness that ovarian energy before it gets released in the blood or excreted in the blood. And so ultimately, and if you do this breathing practice consistently enough, you're able to one extend the time between when you have cycles or you have lighter menstrual cycles because you're not leaking as much because you're able to harness it before. Three, if you've ever experienced PMS, you're probably not going to experience that anymore. I'll give you an example. Destiny, you met her in the weekend that we were there. She shared with me the day after we did that breathing practice. It's like, today's my first day of my period, and I already feel better than I would have. And she usually has like bad PMS. I was
Wow.
like, wow, that's amazing. With just
No,
one. Yeah.
I know some women that just need to take a day off, and they just
Yeah.
can't, just staying in bed. Luckily, I had never had to experience that, for like 99% of my
Yeah,
cycle.
me too. Yeah.
But it's a real thing.
It
It's a real
is.
thing.
It is. Like you're literally you're supposed to be in your feminine at your heaviest cycle. And yet we're not doing it because we're just not in tuned, you
Yeah.
know? We have this Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job, you know?
So you're saying like we could turn into these amazing goddesses with this yoni work, with this breath work, with this, what did you call it? Micro, let me see if I get it right. What I wrote it down somewhere now, I can't find it. What is it? Micro, say it again. It's
Microcosmic
microcosmic
orbit.
orbit.
Yeah.
Microcosmic orbit that stops your energy leaks. And so you'll increase your libido, you'll increase just your all well-being, your
Hmm.
ability to create and procreate. And how powerful is that?
Yeah. I want to say, Julie, I know we're probably getting towards the end of our episode, but I want to say for the women that may not have a partner, because they might have this question, it's like, well, what if I don't have a partner?
Oh, great question. Great question.
Yeah. Because it's a question that I get all the time, right? I haven't been single in like 19 years. I've been married 19 years, but what I feel like it would do and what it has done for some of my one-on-one clients that I've worked with in the past is that it makes you so attuned with your desires because you feel good in your body and like you're whole all on your own, that you then become a magnet for whoever is ready to receive that energy of
Wow.
a woman who's like good on her own,
So you're
you know?
manifesting a partner from a whole healed person and you're creating that versus just looking for love in all the wrong places.
Yes. Instead of attracting the same guy archetype that you've always like the whatever, whatever that archetype is, right? Instead of attracting that same guy, you're now attracting him from this new healed whole place.
Yeah, and you're casting out that energy, and this is all nonverbal.
Yes. Everything starts with energy.
Yeah. And so even, you mentioned if someone's not in a relationship, but even if you're in a relationship, there's people all over the place have been in a relationship for 1,000 years with this person.
Yes.
Like you have this dead energy between the two of you. And
Yes.
so, doing the work either wakes up the other person automatically, I'm sure, or, they're willing to do the work alongside with you.
Yes. Yes. Or you'll know whether or not you want to stay with that person.
Right. Yes, because I mean, we have trauma bonds where you're just with someone and you're not willing to do the work and you just kind of stay together, or you do the work, this person hasn't, but then you're afraid to let go. I mean, there's just so many
Yeah,
levels of that. It's a whole different conversation.
totally.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, one last question. I know I had it here. So many women listening done some deep mindset and energy work, but they still feel disconnected from their bodies. Where would you
Mhm.
say they should start?
Yeah, that was me. You described me before I started this work. Definitely start with the yoni egg because up to this point, if you've done mindset, if you've done, maybe you've even received healing, are all very important, right? But if you still feel disconnected from your body, the yoni egg will help you just reconnect and rewire that pathway from your brain to your womb in a whole new way. And that's what I would recommend is to start there. That's why I always start with the yoni egg first. So if they're not ready for like our 6 week program overflow by design, I have what's called the sensual reset, which gives them the foundation of their yoni egg practice, and I made it so accessible so that more women can feel comfortable kind of diving in and getting started on the journey in a safe way towards like, I don't know how it's gonna go. I don't want to like invest all this money and then like not experience anything. And I feel like if you just start there, just take that tiny, tiny step, that you're going to feel a big difference in your life. And it's going to make all the mindset work, all the framework strategies that you already have work better, be more powerful.
Wow, interesting. Turning up the dial,
Exactly.
sizzling your life. But it's
Yes.
not just in the bedroom; it's out of the bedroom too. So it's all connected.
It's all connected.
Well, Anna, it has been a pleasure having you today. So, to wrap things up, can you tell the listeners where we can find you and connect with you? And we'll put it all in the show notes as well.
Yes. The best way, probably the most updated way, is Instagram. So you can put my handle there at Anna Dornier underscore at the end.
You spell Dornier.
And what's that?
Spell your name.
It's at ANNADORNIER underscore. That's my Instagram. And from there, They can also see that I'm calling it the Sexy Goddess Activation, which is a free activation, 11-minute audio that you can listen to just get a feel of what this energy can do in your body and reconnect to that pleasure pathway that we talked about today. And also, I have my Substack on Instagram as well that they can like read some of my surrender series articles where I talk about how the different spots, the pleasure spots that a woman has requires different types of surrender, and how those types of surrender in the bedroom translate into business and real life lessons.
Wow, fascinating. I can't wait to click on your Substack and find out more. So, thank you so much. And thank you for coming to channel, tapping into the wisdom of your soul. And if you love listening to this, please like and share and subscribe and come back for more. Thanks, Anna.
Thanks, Julie.